It's not 5 o'clock, and they don't care. Welcome to W25. Entertainment, education, and everyday drinking for everyday people. Your hosts are Valerie Caruso and Stephanie Davis, two wine educators who don't need a clock to know when to pour that next glass.
Welcome back, Wine to Five listeners. Thank you so much for joining us because we have a special treat for you. This week, our special guest is one of only 230 people in the world, one of only 147 in America. And you know how many of these are women, Steph?
Yes, sitting right here next to me is one of only 23 women in North America and the second woman in the United States to earn the title of Master Sommelier. That's right. Our guest this week is Master Sommelier Sally Mohr. Welcome, Sally, and thank you for being here.
Thank you so much for having me.
Oh my God, we are so excited, Sally, and we have so many questions to ask you. But, you know, on this show, before we get started, we like to do a quick run-through of what we're drinking. Would you like to kick us off?
Oh, you bet. So I am drinking the 2007 Brokenwood ILR Reserve Semillon. One of the few whites in the world that can age. And it's still a baby.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, we're still kind of like, okay, let's try this 10 years from now, for sure. So in 2025 is when we really should be drinking this baby.
Yes, we will make a note of that date.
Yes.
Okay.
Put it on your calendar, Val. We'll have another episode.
I'm down. I am totally down with that. And for you listeners, a Semillon is the grape. The Hunter Valley is in Australia. And it is a wine we don't see a lot, so it's pretty exciting to be able to get your hands on one, but they do age for quite a while. So, oh my God, I'm like drooling watching you guys with your glasses over there. What do you got there, Steph?
Well, I concocted a new cocktail. I put a spin on the paper airplane that I found on the kindredcocktails.com website. It's equal parts bourbon, Amaro Nonino, Campari, and lemon juice. But what I didn't have Amaro Nonino. I had the Amaro Nina. And I actually added a little bit of sweet vermouth to it. And it kind of takes a little bit of the acid edge off it. I don't know. It rounds it out a little bit more. So, yeah, maybe it's my little, paper airplane first class.
Cheers. Okay, that's perfect.
I don't know. What are you drinking, Val?
That is awesome. I am sitting here with a Boulard Calvados Pays d'Auge VSOP. So that's a lot of words and a lot of letters. Calvados is the actual beverage. So you can think about that as apple cider that's been distilled into brandy. Pays d'Auge is actually the region within Calvados, and that's in the Normandy part of France. And VSOP means very superior old pale, and that's just an aging requirement. So when you see that on a cognac or on an Armagnac or on a Calvados, that normally means 4 years of aging. So the aging takes place in wood, so you got all kinds of really nice vanilla and spicy notes, but you also got the apple thing that you don't have with cognacs and Armagnacs, which says kind of hello fall.
Yeah.
And a little factoid for you is that Calvados can be made with up to 30% Perry pears.
Ooh.
Did you know that?
No, I didn't know it was that percentage. Yeah.
It seems like a lot.
It seems like a lot, yeah.
Yeah, up to max 30%. So Pays d'Auge and Dom Fronte both can have up to 30%. And then I think it's Dom Fronte, they have to have at least 15% pears in the orchards planted. But they have over 120 varieties of apples that make up this brandy. So hello fall.
And those are all artisanal apples too, which is so very
I know.
Yeah.
No, apple varieties you would never see anywhere.
Yeah, it's just hello fall in a glass right here.
Yeah, that goes back to, what episode was that? 22 or something like
25.
that? Oh my gosh, 25, where we talked about fall drinks.
And that one is still on iTunes. You guys must have really loved that episode because that has become one of our most popular downloaded episodes. It's like number 1 or 2.
Yeah, we need to talk more about fall drinks. Or then, the Christmas drinks or holiday drinks or whatever, so that's good.
Yep. So, Steph, why don't you get us started here? Let's talk with Sally. I mean, we know we're drinking booze. We do that every week. So we don't get Sally here every week.
I know. Good. Well, okay, Sally, we want to know a little bit about your story. So tell us the beginning of your wine aha moment.
So I was newly married, working in the corporate world, and hated it. I'm sure everyone has some relevant story with that. But I just knew that there was something else in my life that I wanted to do, and I hadn't figured it out yet. So I ended up applying for a job at a local wine store that was just this dinky little thing. Brand pretty new, and we'd been customers, and it was the classic, well, we spend enough money there. You know, my husband said, might as well work there so you can get a discount.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
So I ended up starting working at this little wine store, the Boulder Wine Merchant, and after 3 years, bought it. And it has just been this crazy journey ever since. And if anyone would have told me 30 years ago that this is where I would be in my life, I would not have believed them.
Wow.
It's been amazing and incredible, and I love it.
That's a pretty good story. I like it. I think that's very inspiring for a lot of people.
And you still own it then, or?
We sold the store 5 years ago.
Okay.
And I passed my MS in 1995, so this is my 20th anniversary coming up here this month.
Woo! This
Congratulations!
month? Oh my gosh! Cheers!
And so it being in MS is incredible, and just being in the wine industry, it's so much fun. And the best way I can explain it is being a kid in a candy store, because there's just so many things to there's something new all the time.
Mm-hmm. There is.
Always something to learn about. There's always something to learn about. I had a new grape variety just the other day that I'd never had before.
Oh, how cool.
What was it?
Yeah, Italian, of course.
Okay.
Albarossa.
Albarossa.
Gotta get some of
From
that.
the Piedmont.
I was going to say that's northern. Northern.
I had never heard of it before. It wasn't even on my radar. And and of course the wine that I had, it's like, well, we're the only ones that make it. Nah, there's like 5 producers of it. And there's a couple, there's actually one in Colorado, and I just had somebody order some for me.
Oh, we got to get some.
I know.
Yeah.
That's cool.
So no, there's this business is just constant learning as much as you want to.
Yeah.
And that's kind of why I got into sake, because it was a whole new beverage that hardly anybody else was kind of looking into. And I just wanted to learn as much as I could about it, which is even kind of goes back to before I even got married, I was doing Japanese flower arranging and thought it was the coolest thing ever.
Ah.
And I thought all things Japanese were the coolest thing ever.
Oh, interesting.
And then now I'm totally getting into sake. So, it's funny how life goes.
Yeah. And have you been to Japan?
3 times.
Oh, okay.
All on visits with import companies or to learn about sake. And they really want us to learn about it, but they're just like the wine industry where you ask them a question and they're like, well, we do this, and you go to the next place and you ask the exact same question and they're like, well, but we do it this way. And there's no consensus. And that's the fun part of it, is you just learn what everybody does and you take away from it what you can.
Yeah. And so you and I went to lunch today. We had some sake at lunch.
Yes.
And we were trying to figure out, what are wine enthusiasts missing out on when they're not exposed to sake?
Everyone thinks that sake should only be consumed in Japanese restaurants. And if you look at the foods we eat on a regular basis, they're so very similar to Japanese cuisine. We eat a lot of fish. It doesn't mean we have to eat it raw all the time, but we eat fish. They eat a lot of cooked fish. They eat a lot of meats. They eat a lot of vegetables. They eat a lot of fermented and pickled vegetables. And these are the same kind of foods we eat. There's no reason that sake cannot be served in a normal restaurant with what we would consider normal food.
Well, I think a lot of people don't understand it. I mean, even, it's Steph and I at our level. I mean, and I've listened to podcasts about sake, and I know the guy who was at the Sake School of America. I met him at the Society of Wine Educators Conference, and I know people that are really into it. And yet I still, when I look at a list that has all these sake on it, I have such a hard time knowing what to look for. So I think as consumers, and maybe even not as seasoned wine professionals, we don't know what to look for. And I think it can be intimidating. So what should we be looking for, I guess, in a good sake? What does make a good sake?
That's a really good question, because it is really hard. I can walk into a restaurant, a sushi restaurant, and look at a list, and I don't even know what they are. Because the terminology isn't consistent. And that's what I've talked to some Japanese producers about, is we need consistency for for the American market to understand what it is that's in this bottle. And until they give us a little more consistency, or until the restaurants themselves take it upon themselves to create a better categorization of the sakes, it is hard.
Right.
I have a hard time, and I feel like I know a lot about it, and I still don't know. I think I know a lot about wine, and I still don't know everything. And I know a lot about sake, but I know I'm far from knowing enough.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the other problem, is it seems like it's harder to learn about it than even to learn about wine. Because the labeling, well, no one can read kanji characters.
That's true.
They're very pretty. I love the labels.
I know.
So it's up to kind of the import companies to come up with the English version, or, just some term that can make it easier for us to understand what's in there.
They've done that with Japanese whiskey. I mean, you can go in and look at the range from the Yamazaki 12-year all the way up to the one I just bought. I mean, we can read it. We can see single malt. We got an idea of what that is. I don't know why we can't somehow translate that into the sake. And I think it's also important that it's not really rice wine, is it? It's more like a beer. It's a fermented beverage.
It is a fermented beverage. And it's totally unique. It's not wine, it's not beer, but it's closer to beer than it is to wine. Because it comes from a grain, and it comes from a grain that in beer, you have a grain that that gets malted to allow the process of the carbohydrates and the sugars to get out of there. With rice, because it's polished, you can't do that.
Right.
So there's a mold that is used to cause that to happen. And so it's unique, it's distinctive, it's different, but it has a lot of wine-like aromas and flavors, and it's easier to translate it into wine speak than it is to translate it to beer speak.
Yeah. And I totally understand. I think it's fascinating. I think we could talk about that all day, because if you listen to how they do the mold and all that.
It's crazy watching the production happen. Yeah. I mean, but the funniest thing about it is the guys who work in production have the smoothest, softest hands of anyone I've ever met in the world. And working with rice and this mold, for some reason, the enzymes cause their skin to be just perfect.
Oh my gosh.
Sounds like we should get in the cosmetic
industry. And I think somebody has started a cosmetic line that uses the koji, which is the mold. So it would be really cool to try it and see what it does. Because you look at these guys and they're, wrinkly face, but their hands are just perfect.
Wow.
Do you have a favorite brand or style, or favorite go-to sake, and what's your favorite pairing with that, or a favorite sake food pairing?
Well, anything with fish is perfect. And probably just because I love the bottle, and anybody I've ever served it to, they've loved it, is Kikusui, the blue chrysanthemum, and it's a blue bottle.
Okay.
And it is it's very white wine-like.
Okay.
And, I can have it with any type of fairly medium to mild fish, and it works perfectly.
I was just going to say, is that hard to find? Kikasui?
Kikasui should not be. Most stores would carry it. Okay. But that is going to be a little bit pricier. If you just want a good go-to that you want to have around, and that is really across the board, very user-friendly, is Tozai Living Jewel. Comes in a frosted white bottle, and it should be less than $20 on most retail shelves.
There we go.
And you see it in quite a few of the sushi restaurants, because it is, at the lower end of the price point of all of them. But that's just really good, easy, basic. Have always loved it. And that's a little bit rounder, softer, kind of more for the Chardonnay crowd.
Okay. And then, of course, one more sake question is service. I think a lot of people have been to those robatas where they cook in front of them and they get the hot, tastes like hot Michelob in a little cup. And I think a lot of people think that is sake, and a lot of times it's not. And so how should sake be served normally?
Well, what we're looking at is premium sake, and premium sake will have a grade designation on it. So Junmai, Ginjo, or Daiginjo. If any of those words are anywhere in the name of the sake, then that's the higher grade. But that's only 7% of the entire sake market. Right. It's really a small percentage. And those are the ones that take a little more care, a little more production and handling to them. And they will be a little bit more expensive. But even the Living Jewel is a Junmai. Okay. So for that price, it's a really good value. But you've got, most of them you want to consider serving chilled.
That's what I thought.
But not cold.
Right.
It's just like white wine. The colder it is, the less you'll get of the aromatics.
Right.
But some of them, even that Living Jewel, you can warm it up to room temperature. And the one we had today at lunch, they didn't have it in the cooler, and so it came to us at room temperature, and it was a Junmai. It was lovely, just at room temperature.
Yeah.
So don't worry about it being, but yeah, the hotter it is, they're just giving you, I always hate to say it's the lesser quality beverage, but yeah, it comes in the big containers and it's huge production.
It's bulk.
And yeah, this is not what sake really is.
Okay. I think that's an important point for the listeners to kind of chew on a little bit, that what my first thing of my 21st birthday, and I had that little thing of sake, and that was all I thought, and I didn't have it again until many, many years later, and I was like, oh, okay. So I think that's important. Thank you for sharing that.
If you want to have something that is more wine-like, you want something that is chilled, slightly chilled, because some of them that are more kind of heading towards the red wine flavors, that's where you want them at room temperature. Ooh. And there are some that kind of head towards room that they were mushroomy and more earthier style, and so they're kind of closer to a Pinot Noir in style.
Wow.
And those are a lot of fun.
And who knew?
Yeah.
Yes.
Well, and the sake that we had today at lunch, and we do want to give a shout out to Cafe Vino and Hillary Siebels for hooking us up. This is the cutest little raccoon critter on this bottle. And seriously, it looks like a baby food jar or something. But it had a peel away lid. Like this, immediately when Hillary brought it to the table, I thought, now this could have been covered in our alternative packaging episode.
Right.
Val. And what was interesting about it is that, she served it at, she said it was at cellar temperature.
Yeah.
Okay.
Both Sally and I still thought it was very pleasant. I was having a salmon salad that was with quinoa and kale and a tahini sauce. It went really nicely with that. And it just was a clean, refreshing drink. I mean, it's the same percentage alcohol as a lot of other wines, 14.5%. And this little bottle served the two of us
easily.
So this is like a split.
Okay.
And Sally and I both had a glass of the sake with our salads, and Sally had a carrot soup.
Yep.
And this was really a nice alternative. We were not having sushi. We were having sake with soup and salad.
Nice.
It was really cool.
It was a lot of fun.
So that was really cool. Okay, well, we should probably choose. I mean, how do we even go from here? I think what I would say favorite wine travels.
Oh, see, that's tough. There's so many. Italy. It's
like moment of silence for Italy, everybody.
A moment of silence. Italy is so cool because it is the whole food thing. I mean, everywhere you go, probably one of the best meals I've ever had in my life was, I traveled to Italy when my daughter was going to do her semester abroad. So we spent 2 weeks traveling around northern Italy just before she went to school. And during the week was my time to pick wineries, and on the weekends she could pick wherever she wanted to go.
Very cool.
One of the wineries we went to, we had lunch, and Mama made us lunch. This lunch lasted for 4 hours, and I finally had to say, we have got to drive from here to, way to the other side of the country, and I was expecting to do this tonight. And if we don't leave now, we're just not going to make it. And they were like, oh, but we still have more to do. And it was course after course after course, and, homemade pastas, the homemade everything, and different wines to go with it. And it's just the culture. Yeah. It's so different from us here.
It is. It's eating over there is an experience. It's not just something you do.
No, it's not. Yeah. It's an experience. It's not just sustenance.
Yes. That's awesome.
Yes.
Well, I have to tell you, we have also some listeners who are working through their own personal certifications for sommeliers. We got some guys working on the CS and everything. As a master somm, if we can just switch tracks real quick, what would be your advice for those listeners who are going through the process? I mean, don't bother, or hey guys, keep at it.
Well, I'm actually going to be in Colorado Springs in 3 weeks, I guess it is from now.
Okay.
Doing the intro and the certified course.
Okay.
They are both full.
Okay, good.
They're already full with waiting lists. And what I tell everybody is it's the classic 10,000 hours.
Yeah.
If you haven't put your 10,000 hours into tasting, service, and just learning about the world of wine, a lot of this is still going to be hard because you need to know what you're talking about. And it's a huge amount of information to learn about.
That's true.
So this, I keep running across, and because I'm old enough now, I can say this, these kids in their 20s who think that they can be the first youngest master sommelier. Well, that's a great thing to go for. But you still got to put in your time. You still got to taste every wine in the world. And you got to start learning what those wines really mean. And all of this has to be special for you. Nobody else can force you to do this. This has to be something that you want to put yourself up against.
Right.
Because it's a challenge. And it's okay to stop at any point along the way. Because any accreditation you get is still a feather in your cap, and you need to be proud of everything you do.
And we've had stories. We had another Somm on the show. She'd gone through the process, and we talked about our failures and how that's part of it. Even for those of us type A's who aren't used to failing anything and have had to retake a blind 4 times, it's part of the process because it does make you learn that stuff that much more, and it's okay.
It's totally okay.
If you fail, that means, okay, all that means is there's something you got to work on.
It's something you have to work on, and it's the people who don't fail, I think, have a harder time going on later because they don't have any empathy for anybody. Mm-hmm. Because you have to fail at some point to go, oh my gosh, I'm not that special. I'm not that great.
Right.
And I do have something I still have to work on. There are very few people that have never failed along the process. And they are the ones who truly, I don't think, turn around to become really great mentors because they don't know how to mentor someone then.
Right.
Yeah.
Agree.
Well, that's very well said. I mean, I do think that humility is one of the greatest things that you can just share with people is that, hey, this was a struggle for me, and now we can relate to each other or whatever. So I think that's really well said. Well, Sally, thank you so much for telling us a little bit about your story and some of your passions. We'd certainly love to spend the entire time talking about it, but I have the feeling we might just have you back on the show. So,
and you bet I would come back.
All right.
We hope so.
That's all right. I like it. Okay, so let's move on because I think, you know what, we've got a couple of cool things to talk about with the factoid and Wino Radar. So on the factoid, I was listening to NPR this morning. Actually, I got to give my husband some credit. Mr. Justin says, "Get up here and listen to the NPR story." And God bless him. Anyway, so I came running over to listen, and it was cool because they covered in a very brief segment about counterfeiting wine and how it's still a real thing that's happening out here. And the 2 things I wanted to share with our listeners was, number 1, that it is happening, and how can you tell, right, if a really expensive old bottle of Bordeaux is real or is it fake? Well, sadly, nobody really can tell just by tasting the wine, okay? And this whole bit on NPR was covered from Maureen Downey's winefraud.com, okay, perspective, and what she has done to really help this big issue at hand. So if you can't tell by tasting it, what can you do? Well, you look at the bottle, the labels, the corks, and you try and find any inconsistencies. So that's still really hard, okay? So not the average person can do that. But that is what the FBI and some of these platforms like winefraud.com are trying to do. But the other cool thing I wanted to tell our listeners was, is this just $10,000 expensive bottles of wine, that aren't in our normal everyday lives? Not exactly. What the news bit talked about was how even a $20 bottle of wine could be counterfeited because people are still making money off of it. Because if they're mass producing counterfeit wine, they can still make a lot of money.
Unless people are probably going to pay attention to the bulk type wines that are being counterfeited. It's easy. You belong to any of those like Facebook groups like Burgundy Geeks or Bordeaux Huggers or whatever, I don't know. And somebody puts on there a certain certain vintage and somebody goes, there's always going to be somebody goes, that's counterfeit. They didn't produce Chateau d'Yquem in 1992 or whatever it is. There's always going to be somebody that's going to go, that's a fake. They didn't make that wine, or that vineyard didn't produce that year, whatever. But for something like our flip-flop in a can, like I said, that we had, not that anybody's probably going to go through that kind of trouble. I don't know.
Right.
But,
right.
They wouldn't know. Hey, you never know. Maybe better. I don't know.
Oh, maybe it's better.
So there's that.
There is that.
I just, I thought it was worth sharing. I thought it was interesting. It was on the news, so anybody can look that up. And I don't really know how frequently that comes up in our everyday wine consumption, especially here in Colorado. But we know we have listeners all over the place. But right now, in China, 1 out of every 2 bottles is counterfeit.
Wow.
Okay? So it is pretty crazy. And depending on where you live, it's different because of the laws, the liquor laws, and the distribution. And, we've got the 3-tiered system here in the U.S., but it's still different by every state.
Right.
So.
And a lot of those bottles were all directly through wine auctions. So auctions are always something you have to be very, very, very careful about. But yeah, everyday stuff, have no clue.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
It is crazy. And I wonder if the new Somm movie that's coming out, does it touch on any of this at all?
No, not that I know of.
No,
they're following, the new Somm movie is following, I think, 4 different Somms, but from New York City.
Okay.
Yes, and there's going to be a reality TV show too.
Oh.
I saw that.
Yes. And they follow these same 4 guys around, and they're these New York guys, and I was actually in one of the locations where they were filming. It's creepy. It's creepy to just have these cameras and microphones around you all the time.
Wow.
Oh my gosh, we're going to have to have another episode about that.
Oh, I
Sal,
know.
you're coming back for that one.
Absolutely.
All right. I can't wait to see what happens in this next movie.
Yeah. Are you going to the premiere?
Not that I know of.
Yeah, I know.
I don't even know where it is.
It's the Napa.
the Napa Wine Festival.
The film festival.
Yeah.
I think last time on the podcast I said Napa Wine Festival, but it was actually the Napa Valley Film Festival, and I know there were some tickets still available and whatever. So it's November 11th, I think, is the date.
Okay.
But I'll be just recovering from my spirits exam on November 4th, and so yeah.
Well, and I'll just be recovering from being down at the Broadmoor doing my exams and lectures and things. So
well, good luck with that, and good luck with all the candidates down there too, because I know there's got to be some nerves. So if you guys are listening, study hard. Sally's coming for you.
That's right, study hard. Well, Val, what's your shout out?
I have one small shout out, but it's for a big accomplishment. Steve Stoll and his lovely wife, Sarah, just opened Triple S Brewery. That is here in Colorado Springs, of course, but I think the thing that's awesome about this, we open breweries, every week here, practically, I think another one just opened. But the thing that's really cool about Steve, I met him last year. I was part of a veteran business owner panel, and he came up afterwards to introduce himself and said he was just getting ready to retire from the Army, and he had just passed a certified beer server under the Cicerone program. Well, he just tested for his 2nd level for the certified Cicerone. So I want to wish Steve good luck, and that would make him the 2nd one in Colorado Springs.
Wow. That's
to
great.
the best of our knowledge. The 2nd, which is just below the Master Cicerone. So there's only 3 levels in that program. So I want to wish Steve and Sarah good luck on the brewery, good luck on the Cicerone. Loved your porter, love the food. If you can check out Triple S Brewery, it is in downtown Colorado Springs, and wish you guys all the best.
Well, yeah, way to go, Steve.
I know, right? And Steph, how about your Wino Radar? What's going on with your Wino Radar this week?
Well, we were talking about the Somm movie, but I wanted to talk about Bradley Cooper's new movie coming out, Burnt, October 23rd. So it's a foodie movie about a Michelin star chef, and it looks hot. I think it's probably, I can't tell if it's Bradley or if it's the food porn, but it looks really hot. Like, I'm going to need to have some good wine with me while I'm watching the movie. And then it also has a few other hot people in it, like, well, I think Emma Thompson, okay, maybe she's not all, hot per se, but she is just so dynamic. She's so awesome. I love that lady. She's awesome. So Emma Thompson, Uma Thurman, Sienna Miller, they're in it, and I tweeted about it yesterday. So it is definitely on my radar, and I will be there.
See, and I don't even know who some of those people are. Isn't it bad? There you are with those famous people again. You asked me who celebrity chefs are, I can tell you. You asked me who all the people in the wine industry are, I can tell you. You asked me who people in Hollywood are, I have no idea. So, living under a rock. But sounds good. I guess this Bradley Cooper person is hot.
Yes, he is.
Okay, then. All right.
I love you, Val.
We'll be looking for that.
And
that brings us to next week, October 22nd, another exciting week. What is going on next week, Steph? I'm so excited I can hardly stand it.
Yeah, so next week, we have kind of a cool take on the Merlot Me month, right? So it's hashtag Merlot Me month of October. We're going to have guests Carol Reber and Jennifer Burke. They're both from Duckhorn Winery. And we're going to be talking Merlot and what that really means, the grape, and enjoying it. Merlot Me promotion all the way.
Merlot Me, baby.
Merlot Me, baby.
Right? I'm looking forward to that, and I think a lot of you are going to be really, really surprised what we have to talk about when it comes to Merlot and what the movie Sideways and all that kind of stuff had to do with any of that. So I think you guys are going to be really surprised. You won't want to miss that episode, but boy, has our time flown by. Oh my goodness. We would love to hear from you. If you have any questions, we can get them to Sally. And if you want to connect with her, I mean, Sally, you do the Twitter thing and all that?
I do the Twitter thing, yeah. Sally Mohr, Mohr.
Okay.
Yeah, so different spelling, and I have my own website. I hate to say I'm not very good at updating it, but I do have my own website, Sally Mohr MS.
Okay.
And yeah, those are my two. And I do have a Pinterest page. And I do a lot of my favorite wines or new wines that I've discovered on my Pinterest pages.
Great. And I think we did find you, Wine25 did find you on Pinterest and Twitter and all that kind of stuff as well. So you can also connect with Steph on Twitter. She's at Albarello Soap and on the Albarello Soap Facebook page. You can find me, Val, on Twitter. I'm at Wine Gal Unboxed, also at Vino with Val Facebook page, and on Instagram as Vino with Val. I'm on Pinterest, but half the time I can't be bothered. So... Steph?
Okay. And we are Wine25, so that is our Facebook page and Twitter, and we have Pinterest, and now we have YouTube channel. Woo! I think the next thing we have to do on YouTube is a rap video, Val.
Rap?
Yeah. Because you rap.
Wiki. Absolutely. Right.
Okay. Anyway, if you need to get a hold of us, drop us a line, send us a question. What's your burning wine question? wine25@gmail.com. We'd love to hear from you. And, I mean, really, we love the reviews. Val, we got a really great review.
We are so excited about this review. Our latest review is from Mommy's Timeout. She calls us happiness in a cup. So, I mean, we love her already. I don't know who this is, but happiness in a cup from Mommy's Timeout. We love you. She says, as a lover of laughter, learning, and ladies who drink wine, this podcast fulfills all of my needs. All of my needs.
Oh my gosh.
Right?
That's a lot.
I know. These two offer wine history, current trends in the industry, and educated recommendations packaged in a funny and entertaining conversation. This is my favorite to listen to on long car rides, while getting ready in the morning, and of course while winding down from a long day with a nice glass of wine in my hand. What a great escape. I would highly recommend this to any sommelier in training, the party planner, the busy mom who wants nothing more than to hang with the gals and have a glass of wine, but doesn't have the time or energy to leave the couch after a long day. And guys, if you want to impress your lady, hang out with these two for a while and you'll be sure to get a second date.
Oh my God, that's my favorite part, right?
I know, that's incredible.
I just squealed. I'm sorry. I wanted that out. But,
Val, I squeal every episode, though. I'm glad that you're coming along now.
I know, right?
Oh, shoot. Mommy's Timeout, you're the best.
I mean, really, that was awesome. So I think that made our week. You guys make our week. Thank you for listening. But we have to check out now, so until next week.
Cheers.
Cheers.
Thanks, Sally.
Thank you, Sally.
Thank you.
Thank you for listening to the Wine25 podcast. Be sure to check us out at Facebook/WineTWO5 and tune in next week for more fun and useful sip tips.